Shout out to Jim and Ice for sending me this story, or not sending me the story, but they asked me if I heard about it. And when I told them, well, they asked me if I heard about this man by the name of Shane Stewart. I said, no, I have no clue who he is. No idea what he's involved with. But they kind of broke it down to me a little bit in the comment section of one of my videos. And I said, oh, this guy's been pretty busy. So this guy's name is Shane Stewart, or Kenneth Shane Stewart. And he was a Chester County supervisor in Chester County, South Carolina. And he was just recently indicted because this man was trafficking meth while on the job. This kind of reminds me of the story that I did recently about that postal worker in one of those upper Midwestern states who was trafficking drugs out of her USPS van, her United States Postal Service van, and she only got like probation or something like that. But let's get into it. A South Carolina grand jury has indicted a county supervisor for allegedly using government cars to run a methamphetamine trafficking operation while on the clock. Already, it reads just like that one with that woman trafficking drugs out of her postal van. It's reading the exact same. I wonder if it's going to render the same results. Documents unsealed Thursday charged Chester County Supervisor Kenneth Shane Stewart with meth trafficking, criminal conspiracy, misconduct in office, and 2 counts of meth distribution. 2 other individuals were also charged with meth trafficking through the investigation. The state attorney's general office said Stewart also conspired to steal catalytic converters from county-owned vehicles. Stewart, age 47, has served as supervisor since 2015 and was re-elected in 2018. County supervisors in South Carolina typically perform administrative duties working with an elected county council. Jail records show Stewart was booked this weekend to the Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center in Columbia. Stewart could face prison time, and they don't specify how much, if convicted of the trafficking and public corruption charges. The fact that they said that he could face time and then they don't say how much time is an issue for me, because that means there's a possibility he could get the same slap on the wrist as that woman who was trafficking drugs out of her postal van. This guy was literally doing the same exact thing. And I wonder if some of his customers were people he worked with. Now, notice this. I've done plenty of videos on my channel talking about drug trafficking or drug distribution. But if you notice something with this story here and the one with the woman trafficking out of their vehicles, besides the fact that they were using government property to do their deed, notice that in none of the articles that was being specified did it ever say anything about, oh, it's going to cause this many millions of people to die or OD. Like I've done with the story recently with that Hispanic guy out of Delaware, where they said he could have wiped out like 3/4 of the state of Delaware, or whenever it's a black person who's dealing drugs or some type of heroin or some type of opioid, it says, oh, he could practically wipe out all of New York City. Notice that when it's palm-colored people who are distributing drugs or trafficking some kind of a narcotic, an opioid, some type of heavy drug that could kill you, they never say they can wipe out a population. They never give this wild figure like that. Pick that up. Notice that. It might be some instances when they do, but rarely do they ever do it. And this is an example of that, because they don't say in the article that, oh, it could have took out this many people. Or with the other woman, it doesn't say, oh, she could have took out that many people. But when I talk about the one in Delaware with the guy who was the leader, who happened to be either Hispanic or Latino, whatever, someone who would be classified as non-black, as non-white, well, non-black and non-white, oh, it could have wiped out 3/4 of the state of Delaware. When I talked about that with those 2 black guys up in New York, oh, they could have wiped out most of New York City. Pay attention to the words that they use. They always try to make it seem like the non-white drug distributors and the traffickers can do way more damage than they can. Meanwhile, who's the ones running these big, giant multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies in which they get those drugs from. Now, people always say that when they think of drug dealers, they always think of, the typical black person on the corner dressed a certain way and everything like that. I keep telling people, y'all better stop sleeping on people who work in corporate offices, because this guy does not look like your corner boy. He had on a suit and tie, and he was trafficking out of a government vehicle that he was only supposed to use for government purposes. Look at that woman up in wherever state that was trafficking drugs out of her truck. She didn't look like no dope dealer, but she sure was selling it out of her truck. And she didn't look like no corner boy or no corner girl. That's why when I tell people some of your biggest thugs and gangsters wear suits and they carry briefcases and they make six figures. But people always think that the biggest gangsters and thugs around are the ones that look like you and I, or the ones that you see on your corner. No, they're like your employees. This guy right here, or even the woman that was out of her truck, those are the ones you have to look out for. Those are your true middlemans right there, or middle woman in her case, middle people.